Elizabeth Saunders had inherited a decrepit mansion, nestled on the outskirts of a small town in rural Maine. Her great-aunt Maud, a woman of odd predilections and cryptic tales, had left it to her. The mansion, known among locals as the House of Yesterdays, had an unsavory reputation. Stories of strange apparitions and eerie noises had seeped into the town's folklore. Most stayed clear, but Elizabeth, a pragmatic scientist, dismissed such tales as the product of overactive imaginations. After a long day's drive, she arrived at the mansion as the sunset bathed its rotting facade in an ethereal glow. With a heavy sigh, she entered, guided by the dancing light of her torch. It was like stepping into another era, antique furniture coated in dust, portraits of stern-faced ancestors hanging lopsided on the walls, and an air of desolation that hung heavy. As she toured the rooms, one thing struck her as odd: a door, seemingly out of place, at the end of the upper hallway. It was made of dark, sturdy oak, a stark contrast to the plaster and wallpaper that surrounded it. Elizabeth tried the handle, but it was locked. Intrigued, she took to searching the house for a key. Late into the night, she discovered a rusty iron key hidden within a carved box in Maud's old study. With a sense of anticipation, she returned to the locked door. The key slid into the lock with a squeal of protest and turned. The door creaked open to reveal a dark staircase leading to what Elizabeth assumed was an attic. Curiosity piqued, she climbed the creaky steps, her flashlight revealing a room untouched by time. It was full of old trunks, discarded furniture, and shelves laden with artifacts of a bygone era. As she investigated, Elizabeth noticed a pattern. The objects were all dated, ranging from 1890 to the 1940s. Each object, from worn-out diaries to faded photographs, had a year written on it. Suddenly, the flashlight flickered and died, and Elizabeth was enveloped in darkness. A chill wind swept through the room, making her shiver. Then, a soft, lilting melody filled the room. An old gramophone began to play. Elizabeth felt a chill creep up her spine. Her logical mind struggled to explain the inexplicable. The room started to change. The dusty smell of age was replaced by the scent of fresh pine and winter. The temperature dropped, and snow began to fall from nowhere, coating everything in a layer of frost. The attic wasn't just filled with objects from the past, it was a doorway to it. As Elizabeth stood there, bewildered, she noticed the date on the gramophone, December 24, 1920. The air shimmered, and she saw the apparition of a young woman in a flapper dress, dancing alone, tears streaming down her face. She seemed to be stuck in a melancholy Christmas Eve from a century ago. The spectral woman looked at Elizabeth, her eyes pleading, before fading away as the music stopped. A sense of grim resolve settled on Elizabeth. If these spirits were trapped here, reliving their past, then she would find a way to set them free. Over the following weeks, she meticulously researched the mansion's history, local folklore, and even dabbling in the occult. She learned that the house had been built on a ley line, a place where the veil between realities was thin. One by one, she began to interact with the spirits in the attic, listening to their stories, reliving their pasts, and helping them find peace. There was a World War I soldier burdened with survivor's guilt, a grieving mother from the 1890s, and many more. Each was trapped within their most profound sorrow, forced to relive their worst moments. Over time, Elizabeth became a ghost whisperer of sorts. Her once practical, analytical mind had opened up to the extraordinary and unexplainable. However, one mystery remained unsolved. The spirit of a small child, always appearing at midnight, dated from 1940, whose weeping echoed through the mansion. She spent weeks trying to communicate with the child, but the spirit seemed trapped in its own world of terror and sadness. The child's apparition always appeared by a small wooden rocking horse, clutching a worn-out teddy bear, tears streaming down its face, fading away with the first light of dawn. Desperate, Elizabeth decided to call a renowned medium, Clara, hoping she might have the knowledge to reach the child. When Clara arrived, she was taken aback by the mansion's powerful energy. She agreed to a séance in the attic at midnight, at the height of the child's manifestation. As midnight approached, the air in the attic grew frigid. Clara lit candles, arranged in a circle, and began chanting in a language Elizabeth didn't understand. The child materialized in the circle's center, its sobbing echoing through the room. Clara held out her hand, and the child looked at her, its sobs subsiding. Speaking softly, Clara asked the child about its sorrow. The child's response sent a chill down their spines. It spoke of a monster that came out from under its bed each night, monster that no one else could see. Clara and Elizabeth shared a worried glance, then a sudden realization hit Elizabeth. She rushed down to the library, where she had seen an old bed stored away. It was ornately carved, dated 1940. With a heavy heart, she decided to sleep on the bed that night, hoping to uncover the child's tormentor. As Elizabeth lay in the bed, she could hear the house settling around her. Hours passed, and just as she was about to give up, a noise from underneath the bed snapped her back to alertness. It was a low growl, inhuman and menacing. A cold hand shot out from under the bed, pulling her into the darkness. A gut-wrenching scream echoed through the mansion, ending in a sudden silence. The old house stood ominously under the moonlight, guarding its mysteries as the sun began to rise on another day.